Mr. Jordan.
Ms. Tucker, you've been at the IRS 29 years,
Yes, sir.
and you're deputy commissioner, is that correct?
Deputy Commissioner.
How many deputy commissioners are there?
2.
Is there anyone between the deputy commissioner and the commissioner?
No.
So you're right near the top.
Yes, sir.
1 month ago, Inspector General Russell George gave the committee information that he informed the IRS on May 30th, 2012, that targeting of conservative political groups was taking place. In fact, if we can put that up on the screen, this is from the TIGTA timeline he gave this committee. And he says in that meeting, these terms were used, Tea Party Patriots 912, that there were 3 people in that committee, or in that meeting, Mr. Schulman, who's no longer with the IRS, Steve Miller, who's been fired, and you. Now, Mr. Schulman testified a month ago in this committee that that was the first time he knew targeting was taking place. Was that the first time you knew about the targeting at the IRS?
That was the first time I was aware of the situation, yes.
Now, Mr. Miller has also, and we've also been informed the committee through talking with Nan Marks, an employee at the IRS, that there was an internal investigation launched by Mr. Miller in March of 2012. Did you know about that internal investigation?
No, sir.
And the results of that were Mr. Miller knew about what was going on May 3rd of 2012. Did you know the results on May 3rd?
No, sir.
So the earliest you knew about it was the same time Mr. Schulman testified, and what you're testifying to today was May 30th of last year.
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with the fact that Mr. Schulman testified in front of the Ways and Means Committee in March of last year, where he said this. First, Mr. Bustani asked him, can you give us assurances that the IRS is not targeting political groups? Mr. Schulman said, yes, I can give you assurances. We pride ourselves on being non-political, non-partisan organization. So just 2 months prior to learning that targeting was going on, he gave assurances. Now, there's usually, when you give assurances, there's some basis for assurances. Were you part of the basis for assurances that Mr. Schulman gave the Ways and Means Committee in March of 2012?
No, sir.
You did not have any conversation with Mr. Schulman before he went and testified in front of the Ways and Means Committee?
No, sir.
In the meeting that took place on May 30th, the meeting that's highlighted there on the TIGTA timeline, when you learned that the targeting was taking place, what was the reaction in that meeting? Was it, oh, sugar, we got to do something here. We got to correct the record. What was the reaction when the 3 top people at the IRS learned that this was going on?
So if I might, TIGTA, the Treasury Inspector General, comes in once a month to meet with...
Cut to the chase. What was the reaction? You find out there's targeting of political groups 6 months before a presidential election. What was the reaction from the top 3 people at the IRS?
TIGTA reported the information that they were looking into the audit, and then at that point in time, IRS waits for TIGTA to complete their investigation.
That's not what they told you. They told you Tea Party Patriot 912 were identifying terms used to put groups on a list who were never given the tax-exempt status they sought. In some cases, they've been trying to get it for 3 years. You learned that May 30, 2012, and your reaction was, oh, we'll just kind of let it keep going and see what TIGTA comes up with?
No, sir.
I mean, earlier when your testimony, you said to the chairman, you said, you know, it'd be helpful if this committee would share information with us at the IRS about the issue that's in front of the committee today. Well, it would have been helpful if once you got that information, you'd have shared it with this committee. We would have liked to have, in fact, we're the committee who asked for the audit in the first place. We would have liked to have known 6 months before an election, May 30th of last year, that targeting was going on. Did you instruct Russell George to share this information with the House Ways and Means Committee and with the House Oversight Committee?
Sir.
And that's a question. Did you tell Mr. George, you know what, this is pretty important information. We just now learned today, according to your testimony, this is going on. Did you tell Mr. George, you know, you might want to share that with the Oversight Committee, specifically since Mr. Ice is the one who requested the audit?
No, sir, that was not my responsibility. I have responsibility at Internal Revenue Service for our support operation.
No, but the point is, you were in the meeting. The other 2 guys are gone. Mr. Schulman's gone. Mr. Miller's been fired. You're the highest ranking official at IRS in that meeting. You knew about it a year ago. Didn't you think it was incumbent upon you to set the record straight? Your boss, Mr. Schulman, had just testified 2 months earlier and told Congress nothing was going on. He finds out 2 months later, in fact, it is going on. You're the highest ranking official still at the IRS. You didn't think it was appropriate to come tell Congress what was taking place?
The TG organization does not report to me.
Why didn't you correct the record? If you want why didn't you come to Mr. Ice and say, you know what? What Mr. Schulman, did you tell Mr. Schulman he should correct the record?
No, sir, I did not.
And well, let me ask you this. Have you been disciplined by Mr. Werfel for not correcting the record?
No, sir, it's not in my purview.
Well, you're deputy commissioner. You're in the meeting. You learned about it that day, right?
Mr. George told us in his routine monthly meeting that they were doing an investigation of TEGE.
We understand that. All I'm asking is, there's got to be some reason why you didn't feel at any obligation, any reason that you should come forward and set the record straight. The Inspector General told the IRS what was going on. You didn't feel like he should tell us, or you didn't feel it was incumbent upon you to tell the committee?
Sir, at the Internal Revenue Service, we have 2 deputy commissioners that have very clearly delineated
the gentleman's time has expired.
responsibilities.
The gentlelady may finish.
At the Internal Revenue Service, we have 2 deputy commissioners with very clearly delineated responsibilities. I do not have responsibility for the service and enforcement programs, as Mr. Miller would not have.
Well, then, Ms. Tucker, why were you in the meeting? If it has nothing to do with you, why did Mr. Russell George think it's important to tell us that you were in the meeting?
Mr. George and his deputies come into Internal Revenue Service every month and brief on all of their investigations, some of which are service and enforcement.
Okay. Well, the gentleman's time has expired. I'm sure we'll get back to this.